Good morning and welcome to Entrepreneurs Hour, right here on WRFR 93.3 FM. Every week on Entrepreneurs Hour, we dive into stories of triumphs, challenges, and lessons learned, highlighting how local organizations and individuals are working together to foster a thriving business ecosystem right here in Knox County and beyond. Whether you're starting a business, growing one, or supporting the local entrepreneurial community, this show is exactly for you. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Austin. I'm your host and president of Ardea, proud sponsor of this show. Ardea is located in Rockport, and we help small businesses and nonprofits with bookkeeping, large-scale accounting, payroll, payment solutions, and tax services. I'm also the president of the Rock Coast Entrepreneurs and a member of the NSBA Leadership Council, representing Maine small business community on a local, state, and national level. I created the show to help entrepreneurs navigate the complexities of running a small business by providing a platform where entrepreneurs can share their journeys and highlight some amazing partners in our region, showcasing the impactful ways they're helping small businesses and entrepreneurs succeed. Let's learn, inspire, and support one another as we continue to build a stronger small business community together. Now, let's get started with today's show. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Entrepreneurs Hour. I'm excited to get started today. And I would just say is that this last week we had our 20th show. This is our 21st show, and it's I'm really looking forward to it. And I've had a lot of great feedback. A lot of listeners have said that what a great guest we're going to have today. So no worries, no pressure. We're going to have a great conversation today. But I think that you're going to find some, a very unique conversation, and it's going to, I think it's also going to set up to what we're going to have in a couple of weeks for a show. But I want to introduce to everyone Concepta Jones. Concepta has a couple of different businesses, but she's got such a beautiful background as well. And I would love for you to introduce yourself, Concepta. Welcome to Entrepreneurs Hour.
Well, thank you for having me, Chris. It's always pretty cool to have these types of platforms for businesses and the little guys. So yeah, I'm originally from South Africa, born in Cape Town, grew up in Durban, the city of Durban, which is now the largest Indian population outside of India.
Wow.
And so that's like the roots of my business with my spices and my South African Indian curry, etc., etc. So we're going to talk a lot about that because we're talking about spices and good curry.
Awesome.
But all of my family's still in South Africa, and I'm here with my husband, and we have 4 kids together, and we're just doing our thing right now.
Congratulations, that's fantastic. And are they listening in today by chance, or
they probably will afterwards?
Okay,
yes.
Well. Hello, family. Awesome. Well, I would love to really just talk to you a little bit about, this culinary background that you have, because this is a really cool thing. So this fusion culinary, spice blends, and so let's just jump right into it. So, where can people? So, do you have a retail space, or is this online? So, where's your presence on?
Right.
For your business?
Yeah, online for sure on my website. And I do festivals and fairs and markets. That's where I'm at right now. The business is fairly new, so it's only been a year.
Oh, that's great.
And so I don't have a retail space. I do have a booth space at the market in Belfast, the United Farmers Market, the one that's indoors.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So, and that just started very recently as well. But the spice blends and the rubs, they actually trace back to, like I said earlier, to my great-great-grandparents that came from India to South Africa to the city of Durban to work on the sugarcane plantations. And they were pretty much indentured laborers. And so when they came over there, their population grew. And then due to improvising with just the spices they had from their homeland, the iconic Durban curry was created. So they made do with what they had. They got creative with what was available to them.
Mm-hmm.
And basically this cuisine was created, and I don't really have any formal culinary background. I'm a home cook. Whatever I know is what I learned from my mom and my aunties and my uncles.
That's awesome.
And so that's what I'm bringing to the.
Those are taste tested recipes, right? I mean, this is your childhood, so this is something that's very
exactly
very important to you.
Yeah.
So let's go right into your journey. So from South Africa to Maine. So growing up in Durban, South Africa, as you were talking about before, what was your childhood like in a multicultural home?
Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, I grew up in an Indian community.
Okay.
So, even though I had multicultural parents, like my father was the East Indian line, and my mom, as I always say, is a long story, because it's very different, and having to explain that it is a long story, because the race groups were very segregated in apartheid, during the apartheid system in South Africa. So the Indians were in a section, the blacks were in a section, the whites were in a section, and the coloreds were in a section. So you heard the word colored, you're like, why is she saying colored? It is different. It is a different race group from all the others.
Okay.
And so my mom is colored, and my father was Indian. So that was the multicultural heritage that I have. But then I grew up with all of the Indian, background and culture and all those types of things. But so to go, not that we're talking politics, but to explain what colored is.
Please do.
So when you go way back to slave days, you have black slaves owned by white owners, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was my nice way of saying it, there was a mixture of black and white. What's your result? What we consider today as mulatto, right? That's kind of what we consider. But so over the generations, those kids people mixed with any other colors as well. So as time went on, and then when apartheid came into place, there was a huge, what they considered colored, which was those people that were so mixed, they were huge enough where they felt they needed to segregate them because they weren't fitting into black or white.
Wow.
So they became a race and a culture of their own. Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So they were born out of, a struggle, that race group and that culture. But it's beautiful because, look at what comes out of the dark.
So how is life in South Africa?
Things have definitely changed over the years. So, when I finished high school, and so 18, whatever, that when Nelson Mandela was the first black president. He was, first ANC and whatever. So that's when apartheid was technically over. And then I was able to actually vote for the first time.
Wow.
And a lot of non-whites could actually start voting. And so over the years, all of that is like, a lot of things have changed in the country. So have some gotten better, have some gotten worse? Absolutely. The Indian culture is grown and is still thriving, shall I say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very different. I don't think people truly understand what South Africa is like unless they're actually there. It's a very diverse culture. There's so much mixture, so much creativity, so much culture throughout everyone. There's no one set accent. There's no one set of, this is how we do things or whatever. It's just across the board. And I think everyone just kind of blends really well together. And as far as, if you walk into this particular community, it's fine. Everyone's accepting of those things, of how everyone lives, because it's just kind of normal.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for explaining that, because honestly, I had no idea about that culture.
Yeah. It gets a little tricky sometimes, because I'm not quite sure how some people might take some of my writing.
This is educational, right? I mean, this is great that you're sharing that. So how did South African Indian cuisine shape your passion for food?
It's, again, this is just lifestyle for me. It was normal, so I didn't think anything of it. It was like, that's my food, that's what I eat, it's normal. but coming to the U.S. and obviously other cities have a little more diversity when it comes to food and culture and stuff. And then in Maine specifically, whenever we would have gatherings or guests over, whatever, I'm cooking. That's just, it's an Indian thing. It's a hospitality thing. It's what we do. And for years, my friends have been saying, you got to do something with this food. You got to do something with this curry. You got to do something with it. So a few years ago, we were going to go on a mission trip to India, actually. And I was like, we were raising funds for it. So I was like, what if I actually just put a little spice blend in a jar and sold it with the recipe to raise funds for my trip? So that's basically where the idea was born. And then a couple of years later, I was doing other things, and I had a booth space at a Christmas market. I was like, what if I did that again? And I put them in little pouches, and I put my recipe on it, and it sold out. So I was like, there's an idea there. So instead of going head on with like cooking food and doing like a food truck or anything like that, I was like, let me do the blends, because that's something I can do easily compared to doing hot foods. So that's what happened a year ago. And I did the packaging. I had to fine tune, because when you're a home cook, you just kind of cook however, you throw in whatever, and you make it work.
Sure.
Whereas I had to fine tune the recipe and make sure I had all the ingredients and the measurements correct. So now I have 3 signature spice blends and 4 signature spice rubs.
Wow.
With my recipes on it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So then you moved to Maine, because before the show started, you talked about how you moved to New York, and then you moved to Maine about 14 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
If we can do math correctly.
12 years, because you said 2013. Yep, 12 years.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, it's early, everyone.
I know.
So you came to Maine in 2013. So what inspired that transition from New York to Maine, and how has Maine influenced your work?
So definitely moved because of my now husband. So I moved with my 2 little boys when they were little boys back then, and moved to Maine to start a new life with my husband and a new blended family, which is great. And I was just talking yesterday, I was like, who would have thunk I would have been in Belfast, Maine? I didn't even really know much about Maine. It's like, that's how I knew about Maine, was through my husband. Yeah. But I love it. I absolutely love Belfast, where I am. I love being in Maine. I love it. I haven't lived anywhere else in Maine other than Belfast. It's coastal. Just, there is something about it, and I just know that there's a purpose for me being here. What does that fully look like at this point? I don't know. But I love the people, and they like me. Sure. They love my food. So, and I think how they've been years influenced, I think it's kind of maybe nudged it a little more for me to bring that out some more. So that was kind of like a creative side of me that needed to come out.
Sure.
And when there was this little need for it, then that's, hey, that came out. That's what needed to come out. Yeah. And
Belfast is a perfect community for the type of work that you're doing too. Especially, they've always been known for their great markets and the food and just the culinary culture is pretty awesome there for sure. So how has the reception been for your spices and storytelling approach to food? Because I know that you said that you cook for friends and family, and they're like, you got to do this more. So let's continue that conversation, and I'd love to get that about that reception that you had and the community, but also to basically how that storytelling approach. Like, I'd like to learn more about that. I'm sure our listeners do too. Yeah,
which is why when the whole thing started with the spices, and I was like, there's more to it than just spices. And I couldn't find, like, how do I name this business? At first it was like, oh, it's Concepta's Curry. But that kind of really put you in a niche and in a pigeonhole. And I hate being in pigeonholes. So, but, and I was like, there's so much more to it, because there's a story behind it. There's history. There's all of those things behind it. And then, hence it became Concepta Studio. And and then zooming out, it became this thing of, I'm actually offering something unique, and it's a cultural fusion hub. and it's I'm telling stories, I'm sharing history. So when I'm telling people about my business or pitching my business, shall I say, it's my spices is more than just a dish. It's a taste of history. It's a journey through generations, because that's what it is. And I carry that DNA with me. I carry the legacy of the South African Indian curry with me. And this is what I'm sharing with the world. This is what I'm sharing with Belfast, and they've loved it. So with my cultural experiences is what also what is part of Concepta Studio is like there's cooking classes. There's events like Cook and Create, where it's kind of similar to the sip and paint concept, where we start off cooking and prepping and whatever, start cooking the food, and then I have a friend that's an artist, and they go off with her and do something artistic and creative, and then we come back together and feast together. So,
wow.
Yeah, and it's all about building community and inspiring diversity.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's continue that conversation, because you brought up Concepta's studio. So what led you to start that?
I don't know. I can't pinpoint it for you. It's a journey, really.
Okay.
Because there's different. We are all creatives, and when someone's a little bit more creative than other people, because somehow we are all creative. Trust me. So you might think you're not creative, but you are. There's so many different facets and aspects of us that wants to come out and be creative, and I wanted to do different things. I wanted to do fashion. I wanted to do, I just wanted to create. It's music, it's art, it's all of that. So I started doing all of those things, but I did them one at a time. And at first I thought, oh, they're all going to be individual businesses, or how's this going to look, or whatever. So that was over a few years. And as I said, it's like when I finally got to see the big picture and zoomed out of it, I got to see, no, this is all a creative expression of who I am. And they can all be under one roof. And that's why it's studios. So, and it's all cultural, it's all fusion, because I'm not just Indian, I'm not just colored, I'm not just South African, I'm not just a mom, I'm not just, whatever tags people want to put on you.
Sure.
So all of that just comes out in everything I do under Concepta Studio.
That's awesome. And so you blend all of this together.
Right. And it's
of course I'm using the word blend, no pun intended.
Yeah, but
yes.
But it is part of your identity, and I know you're probably going to talk about it some other time, but we all have these identity journeys, and we go through all these different seasons in our lives and phases and whatever they are, and they're going to bring out something of who you are. And when we can, get a little closer and take a look at who that is and own it, that you'd be amazed at what comes out of that.
I love how you just said seasons, how you explain age, because it's almost like our life goes by just so quickly, just like the seasons do.
Yeah.
And that's I've never heard of that before, so that's awesome. So when we're talking about the Concepta Studio, so I'd like to we're gonna get right into that a little bit more. So you started doing the Christian life coaching. So can you just tell us a little bit about how that started, and that's part of the Concepta Studio, is that correct, or how does that work?
At this point, they're not tied directly. However, I carry it with me regardless. It's a part of who I am.
Sure.
So I got certified before I came here to Maine. And I did different types of either events, or if I was speaking at an event, or I did group coaching. And I first started with working with younger girls, with teen girls, because I was watching how girls were being, in identity crisis. And I think we all go through those things. But my heart was just drawn to girls where they needed to just own who they are, see who they are, and learn more about themselves. And because girls get so caught up in media and peers and stuff like that, so I worked with, did group coaching with girls, did events, did speaking events, girls conferences, things like that. Now what I'm doing is I'm just working with women in general, And I have a Facebook group, and that's where I do a lot of my stuff, where it's a lot of like online, either Bible studies or what is the word? Journaling, things like that. But the premise and the basis and the foundation is it comes to identity. Because I think women do struggle with that. And I'm not saying no one else struggles with it,
Sure.
but my focus is women and just learning who they are in Christ, owning their identity that way. So yeah. So yeah, I don't know how deep you want to go into that.
Let's go into this, because as you know, I talked before the show, is that we're in the beginning of the show, I talked about how, you know, in just a couple of weeks we're going to have our first faith-based entrepreneur store. So this is important to me and to some of our listeners as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's dive right in. Let's do it. Let's rip off the Band-Aid. Let's talk about it, because I'm a dad, and I got 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys, and the 2 girls are our 2 youngest, and I'm nervous about it, and it's so important for the work that you're doing. So yes, let's dive into this a little bit.
Even though I'm not doing anything at this point very directly with girls that way, part of my journey was like, well, what am I doing? How am I helping these girls? What am I actually, doing for them or with them, whatever. So even though I did at one point do some very direct coaching with them and etc., but now I'm really more of an example for younger girls, because my journey is definitely a story of identity, of learning who I am, and it's an ongoing journey. It's not, you don't get to a point, there's no destination where you just arrive and you're like, oh, boom, that's me, that's who I am. No, you're learning so much more. And when it comes to identity, it's like, you have to learn who your creator is, or else how are you going to know who you are? So the closer you get to your creator, the closer you get to God, the more you'll learn about who you are. And you can't get to know him in just one day. There's so many facets to him. And as you learn all of those facets, you're learning about who you are. And that's been my journey, and so I share my journey with girls and with women. And women I know are looking at me and looking at my journey and being like, oh my God, if she can do it, so can they. But I've had my story and my journey with all of the things I've been through. I've been through a first marriage that was abusive, and coming out of that, it's like, how did you do that? How did you get through it? My only answer, because I have no other answers, it's only God. There's no other way I could have done that. There's no other way I could have come through it and be where I am and who I am today. But starting, like, when you grow up and you are told you are supposed to be someone and supposed to be in a certain area, and that's who you needed to be because you grow up in an Indian community, that's, you're not allowed to be anything else. You get pigeonholed. So that's why I'm like, don't pigeonhole me, because I'm not going to be pigeonholed. That is pigeonholing God. And that's not who he is. So everything about me is like, no, I'm not just going to be this. I'm not just going to be that. I'm not going to be just a mom just because I'm just not going to be someone's wife, whatever. There's so much more to me than that, because I serve purposes and all of that. When it comes to race and culture, it's like, yes, that's great. I have all those things. I love all those things. They're all a part of me, but my main thing is that I'm a child of God. I know who I am in him. That's the DNA that I carry there. And then everything else are just add-ons that are beautiful add-ons to make up who I am.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. If that makes any sense of what I just rambled on about.
No, it is. It's very impactful. So what's a powerful transformation story that stands up to you?
My life or someone else's?
Whatever you want to share.
Oh, geez. I don't know. Transformation. Geez, I can just think of mine.
Yeah, please, share it. Yeah.
I mean there is definitely other people that have gone through some really, amazing journeys in their life and their stories. I would think coming out of my abusive marriage would be one of the biggest, things in my journey, and not coming out of it being bitter and angry, but coming out of it stronger and knowing a little bit more about who I am and knowing what I want for my future, for my kids, and not, because when a lot of women come out of, and I'm not generalizing women, because I have seen some women come out of an abusive marriage and then either, go spiral and just, they're either going to another abusive marriage because they haven't healed from that one, or they end up really hating men and they just become anti-men, and they, don't want to have another marriage, whatever. And you're really making me go into certain spots. I'm like, I'm not sure we're gonna.
It's okay. No, you can pull like back on whatever you want. This is, this is your show. So.
And then some women come out of an abusive marriage and they totally don't want to focus on themselves. They feel they need to sacrifice themselves and just focus on their children. And I didn't want to get into any one of those things. I believe that coming out of that is like, yes, I knew I was going to have another marriage. Yes, I knew I was going to have a husband, but a husband that was going to, love me and not abuse me, blah, 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 and all those things. And I wanted my children to see that I can have a healthy marriage and not the abusive one that I came out of. But I didn't want them to also see that, mom's just going to self-sacrifice and not care about anything else except and focus my world on them. So if that. No,
this is great. So the music and ministry. So how do you integrate faith, music, and coaching into your work?
Well, they don't really go together.
Okay.
It would all depend on what event I was at or that I was asked to be at. If someone wanted me to sing at an event or lead worship at an event, and somebody just wanted to speak at an event, or so they don't necessarily would be together on the same platform.
Okay, no,
they needed to.
No, that's okay. No, it's more of a point of clarity, so that's good. Okay, so you do those things separately. That's great.
If there was an opportunity to do them together, it depends on how they would actually fuse together. Yeah.
So, what does worship and speaking mean to you?
It depends if I'm speaking, who am I speaking to and what am I speaking about.
Okay.
And worship is like, am I leading worship or what's going on? It's like, am I leading others into, am I leading them into worship, or am I performing?
Okay.
Yeah. But they're yet both an act of worship.
Just different sides of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's harder?
To explain. I don't know what your listeners are going to... They're like, this girl's all over the place.
No. It's okay. So community work and volunteerism, I know that's really, really important to you. So your work with Sweetser and the Belfast Public Library. So can you tell us a little bit about...
a while ago. Jeez.
So, because this is part of your journey, right?
Yes,
so, and
absolutely.
That's the whole purpose of this, is kind of like, and it's almost like we're breaking this down, like, of who you are individually and what makes you unique and special and amazing, right? And then how it kind of, your history transitioned into...
to where I am now.
Yeah. So that's why it's so important to talk about some of these things.
Yeah. So that was definitely when I was like working more with girls, with teen girls. I remember at the Belfast Library, we did like a little pizza party, and we were talking about social media at that point, where social media wasn't as crazy as it is now. And then we, at Sweetser, I did group coaching there as well, so we worked with some girls, and I think I might have done a few weeks, so like once a week type thing. And we were talking about identity and stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow. And so my girls may be listening right now.
Okay.
Okay. And so like for parents, like, and for even if you have some kids listening right now, and that whole social media, it's
yeah.
So what are some of the things that you could just in just a couple minutes just say to these kids about social media, and basically the things that you probably warn them about? And
I think from how it's like progressed, social media has become a whole other thing. Even went like way at the beginning, like when did Facebook start? Like you and I were probably like how old? Or what was
it? So that would have been like
a while ago. But the way it was
early 2000s, right?
Yeah, and the way it was then compared to the way it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these other like Snapchat, TikTok, all those things. I don't
started as MySpace and transitioned over.
Yeah. I think what's important for anyone, and it's good that it would start young, is, and this could be a great conversation between parents and kids, are boundaries. I think that's really, really important. If you understand boundaries, I think you'd have a much more enjoyable and a safer online social media experience. So, I don't even remember where I heard this, but I don't even remember the exact analogy or diagram of it. But if you have a circle around you, if you draw a circle around you, it's like, and then there's, I think, maybe a few more circles, you want to decide who you're going to allow into those areas of each of the circles around you, like kind of like a rippling thing around you.
Mm-hmm.
So how much of information of yourself will you share with the person that's on the furthest part of that circle? What of you will you share with the person that's in the second tier of that circle? And that's how you decide where you have your boundaries. Because if you when you invite someone into your home, all right, they're usually going to step in your living room, right? Depending on who that person is, it could be a friend, an acquaintance, it could be a coworker, it could be a family member. Where would you take them next? Would you allow that person to go into your kitchen? Would you allow that person to go into your bedroom? Would you allow that person to go into your underwear drawer? Those are levels of boundaries, right?
Right.
If you have a coworker come into your house, are they going to go into your bedroom? Are you going to allow them into your bedroom?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. So what if your information and your life and what you share and your personal information, are you willing to share with the people out there? So I think if you learn boundaries well, I think that would be very good for any person online.
Concepta, that was really, really good. That's a great analogy. That is awesome. So how can communities better support young women in their identity journey? That was a question I had written out, and I think it's so important, especially in today's age. It's a brutal world right now.
Mm-hmm.
So how can communities better support young women in their identity journey?
Oh, geez. Celebrate who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of cliche words that people can just throw around, and that's great. Take the time to actually get to know them and then celebrate their authentic self, as opposed to just like, hey, you got this, or hey, be who you are, blah, blah, blah. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're truly going to help and support someone, get to know them and then actually truly celebrate that person.
That's awesome. Great. Well, we have been talking some heavy stuff, so we're gonna transition a little bit and kind of and go back to what I call the speed round, or the fun and personal questions. So that way we get to know our guests on a weekly basis. And so this is quick fire questions. Come up with the best one word answer you can sometimes, or a phrase. But here we go. If you could only eat one dish for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Chicken curry.
Okay. I would hope so. I mean, that is your thing, isn't it? Curry. All right, here we go. What's the most unexpected place you've ever found culinary inspiration?
can't think of it. Most unexpected place.
Well, I think Belfast is probably like
Maybe.
like you didn't think that you were ever going to be in Belfast, Maine.
No. And serving them my foods that I grew up with, I guess, that would count. Yes.
Sorry, that was all right. So if you could have dinner with one historical figure, who would it be and why?
Oh, historical figure. Oh, geez. I don't even know if I have like historical figures. And then, maybe, you know what? No, I don't know. Probably someone that actually is my line of the East Indian line that came from India.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Let's see here. What's one South African phrase or saying everyone should know?
If it's going to be one word, I would say lekker, and that's Afrikaans, and it means nice, good, tasty.
Okay.
As in Lekker.
All right. Awesome. And what's a book that changed your perspective on life or business?
I was actually just talking about this yesterday. If I can remember the actual name of the book, but it was by Brene Brown.
Okay.
Cannot for the life of me remember the name of the book right now, but it was it was actually during a time of School of Ministry that I was given that book as a suggestion to study. And she's really good as far as talking about shame and talking about identity, in her way. And I think one of the things I took away from there was it's okay to have slashes next to your name, as opposed to when someone asks you, what do? You want to give a quick answer, right? You want to say, well, I'm whatever, I'm a secretary, or I'm a teacher, whatever. But, and that used to be a thing, because like, oh my gosh, I can't say I do this and this and this and this. I got to give one answer, I got to give one word. But, so now it's like, if someone asks you, well, what do you do? It's like, well, how much time you got? There's a lot to me.
Yeah.
So it's okay to have slashes. So like, I'm Concepta and I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a mom, I'm a creative, I'm this and this and this. It's okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you had a theme song for your life, what would it be?
Oh, I might have one.
Okay.
Something I wrote a while ago, but it's I Am, I Can.
I Am, I Can. What's the song about?
Identity. It's
okay.
Like, I am, I am beautiful in Christ and I can do all things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's so awesome. Thank you very much. All right, so now we're going to go back into the entrepreneurship of our, the entrepreneur side of our show. That's what's really important here. And we're going to talk about, lessons in the future, and just talk a little bit more about your journey on becoming an entrepreneur. What's been your biggest lesson that you've learned as a business owner?
It's okay to fail.
Now, we've heard a lot about that. What does failure mean to you?
Where it didn't turn out how you thought it was going to turn out. You might have had this grand idea of, hey, I got this idea, I'm going to set it up, and all the people are going to come, and that's your grand idea. And that's not always how things work. So it's okay for it to not go the way you expect it to go. And yes, that might not be considered a failure, right? Because fail means, it sucked, it trashed, or whatever. But that's kind of not what kind of words we want to use. But
that's real. I mean, those are real emotions.
Right. But I think a good perspective would be not yet. So let's see what's next. So that might not be yet. So it shouldn't even be considered a failure.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you were, so you obviously started, we talked a little bit about your journey earlier. So it went from being a hobby, something or a passion of yours, right? And then you made that leap of faith and started the hustle. So how was that transition from taking it from, a passion, like a life's passion, to almost like a hobby, to now a business? Like, how was that journey?
It's a lot of hard work. It's no, you know, like, but any entrepreneur starting something small and trying to work it and whatever, it's a lot of work, a lot of hours, and you have to be willing to put in those hours. And, you know, while you're probably still trying to do a day job or whatever, but it definitely is a lot of work and a lot of keeping your eye on the goal, keeping your eye on the bigger vision, you know, because you can't just be like, oh, that didn't work out, that little piece of it didn't work out, and then like, oh, I'm going to throw it all away. Just keep going, you know, keep going, keep moving forward, learn constantly. It's always, you have to learn. If you're not going to learn, you're not going to grow.
Right.
And you're not going to move forward. And and that was for me. You know, I joined an entrepreneurship program where I learned about marketing. I learned about what's the branding and things like that. You know, and it just kind of took on a thing of its own where it's like, yes, I had this idea. I had no idea how big it was going to get or what I was going to do with it. But then all of these possibilities and opportunities with it through the entrepreneurship program, through networking, through meeting people, and it's like, oh, this can actually go somewhere. This can be something. And then that's how it just kept growing and kept accelerating to where I am now in just a year and doing it on a part-time basis.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was the entrepreneur program? Because that's a really important thing for me and our listeners. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yes, so it's Maine Center for Entrepreneurs.
Wait a second. I'm a mentor in that group. Was this last year's cohort?
Yeah, as in 2024?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
For real?
Yes. That's hilarious. Okay, so
yes.
we have Maine Center of Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Awesome. Because
I was the Waterville cohort.
Next year, we're having a cohort here in Rockland, and I'm
That's
going to be leading
awesome.
that. Yeah, so that is so cool. So
that's what I did, yes.
Yeah, so let's talk Maine Center of Entrepreneurs, because a lot of people don't know much about that. But here in Rockland, like, we've had multiple winners. We had Bixby Chocolate as a past winner. And then we've also had Loyal Biscuit, you know, which was a great success story as well.
That's awesome. I didn't know about Loyal Biscuit. I knew about Bixby.
Yeah,
Wow.
So tell us about that program, because, like I said, a lot of people don't realize
that it's there.
That it's there.
Yeah. No, it's a really great program. I actually learned about it from another entrepreneur friend. And you got to apply to get in, you know, because you basically have to show that you're like, oh, I have an idea and I'm not just kind of like trying to wing it, whatever, you know, you've got to be serious about it. I love that all the aspects of business is covered through the program. You know, they're talking finance, they're talking marketing, they're talking sales, all of it, everything that an entrepreneur
that's this week's class actually is around that. Sales, yeah.
And then the biggest part of the program is that you get the mentors, and you have access to all aspects of mentors. It's not just, you might get someone that works with you specifically, but if you need a different area of help or support, and then you can get that. And you get that support through the entire lifetime of your business. It doesn't just end when the program ends. So I still, you know, email them like, hey, I need a little help with this particular area. Can I be connected with somebody? And yes, I get connected with someone. Even if it's just one question that I want to ask, and then I get it. So it's a great program. They do focus on honing in on your pitch, which is really good to pitch your business. And that has helped me, you know, crafting my pitch there. And then I actually this year entered Big Gig, and I won the first round.
Wow.
So that was like, what little gig? And then the finals is in April. So I get entered into that round. But yeah, so if anyone wants to really pursue the entrepreneurship path, and they're really serious about it, I would say MCE is the program to be in.
Yeah, it's a great program.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you didn't talk about the prize, because a lot of people go into that program for the grand prize, which is not the purpose of the program.
No,
it's just the
not
benefit
at all.
of the program.
Yes.
And so can you tell us a little bit about what I'm referring to?
Yes, so at the end of the program, everyone gets to pitch and win $25,000. And then there's
one winner for the 25,000.
There's only one winner.
That's
yes,
right.
and there's no consolation prizes either. However, hey, with everything else, it's like, and I didn't want to. That's probably why I didn't even say it, because, like you said, that's not the focus of it.
Right.
So yeah, and I think that's important when you go in mindset also. So you're crafting your pitch through the entire program. You're learning all the different aspects of it, and that was really helped me fine-tune my business, fine-tune my business idea, and then the paths I needed to take. It was actually meeting. I had a half an hour mentorship time with a branding strategist, and that's how Concepta Studio came about.
Really?
Yes, I went in as Concepta's Curry.
Okay, and then you turned into Concepta's Studio.
Because she really helped me with seeing it the way I actually needed to see it. Like I was speaking to her, and it's like, but she just helped me like put it all together and be like, oh, that's really what it, and I'm like, yes.
So in that program, it's so important. So they talked a lot about like your pitch or your elevator speech.
Right.
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Oh, my pitch?
Yes.
You really want my pitch?
Yes, I want to hear it. Everybody wants to hear it because it also, and a lot of times it's gonna be off the cuff, right? It's gonna be that moment that you're in that elevator or in that pause, and you are trying to just kill the moment of silence, and you just want to build a connection with
that you're trying to get like 100 words, like 500 words into like 2 minutes type thing. Yeah. So there's a 3-minute pitch, and there's a 5-minute pitch. All right. So I did my 5-minute pitch with Big Gig. So let's see if I can do that one. So, and you probably haven't heard some of my wordings throughout this hour that we did. So I guess I'll start off with, hi, I'm Concepta, the visionary behind Concepta Studio, which is a cultural fusion hub offering a unique experience through spices, food, and creativity. With a multi-ethnic background, originally from South Africa, I carry with me the legacy of the South African Indian curry, Durban curry to be precise. As fourth-generation Indian, born in the height of apartheid South Africa, my spices trace back to the migration of my great-great-grandparents from India to the city of Durban, which has now become the largest Indian population outside of India. And through their resilience as indentured laborers, that's how that came about. And then due to improvising with the limited spices from their homeland, the iconic Durban curry was created. So my spice blends and my spice rubs with my accompanied really easy to follow homemade recipes, you and the fellow home food get to experience Durban curry in your own home. It is all natural. Unlike other products in the market like curry paste or sauces, there's no additives, no preservatives. It's gluten-free, it's dairy-free. Not to mention the health benefits. Turmeric is known for its anti-inflammatory properties. Cumin is a rich antioxidant. And with my spice rubs, you get to creatively use them in non-ethnic dishes. So something like spiced infused beef tacos or some curry-flavored grilled chicken. And my my spices is more than a dish. It's a taste of history, and it's a journey through generations. For the creative side, I host cultural experiences like cooking classes, Cook and Create, which is similar to the Sip and Paint concept. And people get to learn, explore, and connect through food, creativity, and inspire diversity. The consumer's growing interest in diverse food and culture is really the driving demand behind spices and seasonings. It is, I think in Maine with the seasoning and condiments, it's supposed to be like, 146 million for 2025. That's what they're anticipating. So that's how big that market is. So spices and seasoning is a big deal. Improvising. And then in just 1 year of business as a solo entrepreneur on a part-time basis, Concepta Studio has reached some significant milestones. Successfully launched 3 signature spice blends and 4 rubs that now carries the Maine Made logo. And I introduced to my local community my bakery cart featuring spiced-infused breads and cookies, which caught the attention of the Mid-Coast villager, who fondly referred to me as the Waldo's Spice Artist. My events has a growing audience. Like I do cooking classes in Wiscasset at the Maine Tasting Center, and now you're cooking in Bath. And now recently started serving hot, ready-to-eat, delicious curries at the United Farmers Market in Belfast. So all of these prove the growing demand for my product.
Congratulations. Beautiful job. That's awesome. See, this is the great work that you've learned in such a short amount of time, and it's so inspiring. So thank you so much for doing that. So folks, the Maine Center of Entrepreneurs, it's a great program, just a few cohorts this year, but we're going to be expanding it to this area, which is very, very, awesome. Very cool. All right, well, I'd like to just go right into some additional things here. So what's next for Concepta Studios and other ventures?
The big ultimate goal would be for me to have my own space.
Okay.
And all of this under one roof. But it's going to be one step at a time. So the next thing would be, like, the first thing happened for the year already was that being at the market with the hot foods. So, I mean, yes, there's going to be some markets and fairs that come up throughout the year, festivals, like the Maine Culinary Festival, Maine Harvest Festival, all those things. But I think the next goal would be, which is why I've entered some of these pitch contests, is to start working towards a goal of getting some space. And I would like to build my own space because I have property. I have my own land, so I don't want to particularly buy another building. I would rather build my own space and then start small. It doesn't have to be all in one. So that's where we're at.
That's awesome. Thank you.
New England Made Trade Show. That's what's happening next.
What's that again?
The New England Made Trade Show.
When is that?
This weekend.
Oh, is it? Where's
in Portland.
That? In Portland? Awesome.
So it's a trade show, so it's not open to the public, but it's going to give me wholesale opportunities.
That's great.
To be all over New England.
Yeah, and last week we had a great guest that talked about her Maine-made products that she has, and and just the different ways that you can do that. And wholesale is definitely, that's where you go from being a part-time to a full-time gig because of that.
So that's like the next big step for me, where I'm going to be able to grow and be in stores available all throughout New England. That's
fantastic. Final words of wisdom for aspiring entrepreneurs.
There's so much that could be said. And I know a lot of people will be like, keep going, It's okay to dream big. That's what I'd say. It's okay to dream big. Don't be afraid of your dreams, because there's a reason you have the dream. Figure out the how-to. It doesn't have to be all in one shot, all in one go. Figure out the little steps, and I guess that's the coach in me. It's like, what baby step can you do today that's going to get you closer to your goal?
That's awesome. Thank you. And what would be, I always love asking this question, what would be some advice that you would tell the younger Concepta?
Oh, I think the same thing. It's okay to dream big. Because a lot of times when you share your dreams with people, they're like, oh, that's a little too much. You really think you can do that? Yeah, I would say just keep dreaming big and just keep moving, taking it one step at a time, and don't get disappointed by what might seem as failures.
Thank you for sharing that. And how can folks, where can they see your business, your website, Facebook, Instagram? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yep, so conceptastudio.com, Concepta, and then studio, one word, .com, and then Instagram and Facebook would be at Concepta Studio.
Great. Yeah. And we'll make sure that we share that when we share today's on social media, but also too with this. We always promote it as well. And I just want to thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your journey. It was very, very, it was so awesome to hear all these things, and especially the Maine Center of Entrepreneurs. I may be a little biased, but but it's but also too the power of networking, surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs. listeners and viewers, you are not alone. There is a community that's there to embrace you and be able to support you, to dream with you, and to carry you through some difficult times, but also celebrate the best times.
Exactly.
So family is really important and all
Yes.
that. So thank you and continue. God bless all the work that you're doing as well.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.